Om Brahmanandam Parvasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasvadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadguru Tang Namami. Salutations to the Guru, who is the embodiment of the bliss of Brahman and the bestower of supreme happiness, who is detached, knowledge personified and beyond duality, who is like the sky and is indicated by such Vedic dicta as thou art that, and who is one, eternal, pure, immovable, the witness of all the changes in the buddhi, intellect, beyond all states and devoid of the three gunas. Salutations to the two true Guru. Om Namo Narayana, dear devotees. I am very glad to announce that we are celebrating this Swami Nishchalananda Jayanti, who is the founder and the first president of our Ramakrishna Center of South Africa. On this auspicious occasion of this Nishchalananda's birth Jayanti, the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa, Durban, is happy to offer a tribute in the form of a short video clip on Swami Nishchalananda ji. And also we are releasing our first online ebook titled Swami Nishchalananda, a short biography. So both this video and the ebook will be placed on all the center's social media platforms. I request the devotees to take the advantage of this, use these things, go through this, and we pray that this offering will continue to inspire all the devotees in pursuit of their spiritual aspirations. As I have already said, may the blessings of our masters Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sharada Devi and Swamiji be upon us all on this very auspicious day. That is our prayer, and I hope during this period of crisis, even all of we are passing through, even during this period of crisis, you will have real psychological and spiritual strength if you go through this video clip and this short biography of our first president and founder, Swami Nishchalananda. May Mother Master Swamiji bless us all. Om Janani Saradang Devi Ramakrishna Jagadgurum Madhapadvi Darshitva Pranamami Hari Om Tat Sat.
Om Namo Narayanaya. The Ramakrishna Center of South Africa, Durban, presents a tribute to Swami Nishchalananda, founder and first president of the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa.
During times of political, economic, religious, and social uncertainty, extraordinary personalities are born to bring light to the masses and to guide them to higher realms of spirituality. The history of the period is usually characterized by a suppression of society by the ruling class or by political leaders. The general public conforms to these established social and religious norms that sanction the political order of the time. People become accustomed to these entrenched patterns of existence, that they accept what is unjustifiable and wrong. Individuals that vigorously attempt to eradicate the suppression and challenge the established order of the day are remarkable and unique. Their lives from childhood to adulthood become examples of simple living, high thinking, and the manifestation of perfection and divinity. Sri Rama, Sri Krishna, Lord Buddha, Lord Jesus, and Sri Ramakrishna, amongst many other religious leaders, are a testimony to these facts of history. Each period and each country has produced its own great philosophical thinkers and social reformers. Such a person made an appearance among the Hindu people in South Africa. He was Swami Nishchalananda, who generated a force that resuscitated faith and the vibrant values inherent in Vedanta. Vedanta teaches that the purpose of life is to realize the ultimate reality, here and now, through spiritual practice. The Indian people, who are a minority group in South Africa, greatly benefited by his birth in this country. Swami Nishchalananda was born on 22nd July 1925 in a suburb called Paradise, situated in the coal mining town of Newcastle in the northern parts of South Africa's province of KwaZulu-Natal, then known as Natal. He was the fifth of 9 children, and his parents named him Dhanagopal soon after his birth. From an early age, Dhanagopal demonstrated a sense of valor, character, and determination that none in his family and neighborhood could initially understand. Retrospectively, numerous instances in his life since childhood emphasized his unique character. At the age of 9 years, when his mother had to travel to a hospital in the neighboring town of Ladysmith, more than 100 kilometers away from Newcastle, he took charge of his family ahead of his 4 elder siblings in ways that stunned them. He single-handedly washed, scrubbed, and cleaned their home, and treated his father and the rest of his family to freshly cooked hot meals every day that his mother was not at home. Interestingly, he neither asked for any assistance, nor did he squeal about his singular devotion to the household chores he undertook.
While such exemplary responsibility is not a unique characteristic among households, it is such incidents that reflects upon the legacy he left behind. By the age of 10, Dhanagopal read a book on Swami Vivekananda, attracting him to the ideals of renunciation and service to humanity. This impressionable reading caused his latent spirituality to simmer in his thoughts over the next few years. By the age of 17 years, in 1942, he formed a reading group that was dedicated to the study of religious practices and Vedanta, especially as it was conveyed in the writings about Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sharda Devi, and Swami Vivekananda. The year 1942 therefore heralded the beginning of the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa. As Dhanagopal's reading and spiritual practices increased, he concomitantly sought to disengage from his study group, family, and social networks. He found them too distracting against his quest towards his inherent spiritual inclinations. All of them tried to steer him away from a life of spirituality towards a life of secular pursuits. Herein lay the special manifestation in Dhanagopal that Sri Ramakrishna frequently talked about. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, the Master's wise words about the different manifestations of divine power remains with us in our attempts to understand and appreciate why some people and some things in life are more divine than others. In a conversation with a devotee, Vaidyanath, Master said to him, "All that you see is the manifestation of God's power. No one can do anything without this power. But you must remember that there is not an equal manifestation of God's power in all things." Vidyasagar once asked me whether God endowed some with greater power than others. I said to him, "If there are no greater and lesser manifestations of His power, then why have we taken the trouble to visit you? So it stands to reason that God exists in all beings as the all-pervasive power. but the manifestations of his power are different in different beings. Dhanagopal's resolve to go to India for guidance through the Ramakrishna order bore fruit when the community supported a fundraising drive to facilitate his travel. On 4th February 1948, he boarded the SS Kampala and reached India after almost 4 weeks.
I promised never to set foot in South Africa without the ochre robe on, as many were in doubt whether I would become a monk. At last the day had dawned to show those who had doubted, those who had troubled me, those who had called me mad, that I was really mad, yes, mad after him. The saying flashed across my inward eye, for now the hour has come, when I shall quit this golden frame where my heart lives caged, to find the truth, which henceforth I shall seek, for all men's sake, until the truth be found. From this very moment onwards, I am the humble servant of the Lord.
After meeting several important Swamis of the Ramakrishna order and taking his requisite rest, Dhanagopal was initiated in Belur Math, Kolkata, then called Calcutta, on Tuesday, 16th March 1948, by the internationally respected Swami Virajananda, the 6th president of the Ramakrishna order. Dhanagopal was disappointed to learn that in keeping with the mission's rules for monastic life, all connections to South Africa would have to be severed and that there could be no assurance of his return to South Africa if his monastic vows were taken there. He felt that he had to return to South Africa to work for the religious interest of the Indian community and therefore had difficulty in accepting the terms of the Math. He then surrendered himself to the will of God, who would decide his future. On 19th March 1948, he traveled with a bare minimum of money and possessions by train and on foot towards Rishikesh in the Himalayas, having prepared himself mentally to face serious challenges along the way. He met Swami Purushothamananda after hearing about him in the Sivananda ashram and stayed with him at the cave in Vasishtha Guha, a place where the disruptiveness of modernity remained absent up to that juncture. Noting his spontaneity and commitment, on 9 May 1948, Swami Purushothamananda initiated Dhanagopal into Brahmacharya, renaming him Jai Ram. More than a year had passed in the burgeoning blissful relationship between the two of them. It was a long enough period for Swami Purushothamananda to feel convinced that Jai Ram was ready for initiation into sannyasa. On 17th August 1949, Jai Ram was initiated and bestowed the name Swami Nischalananda. Swami Nischalananda's training took place mainly along the river Ganga. Under the able guidance of the respected sannyasin Swami Purushothamananda, whose association with the Ramakrishna Math and mission allowed an easy flow of grace from the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sharda Devi and Swami Vivekananda and their direct disciples. Generations of devotees in South Africa have become the subsequent beneficiaries of the teachings that were passed down to Swami Nischalananda. Swami Nischalananda had engaged with varying types of people and activities during his years as a monk. In his meetings with tribal people to the most senior political and spiritual leadership in India, he was able to condition his mind towards treating and accepting people on equal terms, seeing all human beings as equal manifestations of God. He walked across numerous provinces of India to reach the lofty heights of the Himalaya mountains, including Mount Kailas and Lake Manasarovar, with a bare minimum of possessions and without any money.
After almost 4 years of service to humanity and training in India, Swami Nischalananda returned to South Africa on the 30th of September 1953. His commitment, dedication, and inspiration lives on through the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa, which continues to provide essential guidance and direction in every aspect in the lives of thousands of devotees who accept Sri Ramakrishna, Sri Sharda Devi, and Swami Vivekananda as their chosen ideals. Swami Nishchalananda's return to South Africa was an evidently long-awaited moment. The activities he initiated drew large crowds of people from all backgrounds. The multifarious activities that he set out to do were already being carried out in a similar scale by numerous other individuals and organizations. Swami Nishchalananda's contribution was essentially to cut across linguistic, caste, and religious barriers amongst Hindus, as well as people from other racial and religious backgrounds. The Ramakrishna Center, under Swamiji's guidance, became the first broad-based organization that provided a progressive, sustainable, and common united identity to the South African Hindus. In the absence of a property owned by the Ramakrishna Center of South Africa immediately after his return, Swami Nishchalananda used the temple premises in the Amgeni Road-based Sri Vaidyanatha Eshwarar Ayalam. He initiated numerous religious classes, major festivals such as Sri Ramakrishna's, Sri Sharda Devi's, and Swami Vivekananda's birthdays. He also placed significant attention to the children and youth and started the popular children's rallies across the province. For the first time in the Hindu population's presence in South Africa, linguistic and regional boundaries were being transcended in meaningful ways. The Ramakrishna Center of South Africa laid its foundation through the purchase of several properties. The property near Tongaat Beach was purchased in 1957, where it was first intended to house indigent children for the purposes of providing them with a value-based education and a home environment. The second property, Chateau de Montreal, was purchased in Glen Anil, where the current headquarters of the center is now situated. For over 80 years, the center has been propagating the universal message of peace and harmony as demonstrated by Sri Ramakrishna, Holy Mother Sri Sharda Devi, and Swami Vivekananda in their own lives. It has also contributed significantly to the upliftment of disadvantaged communities through many of its outreach programs. These include medical services, poverty alleviation through nutrition, skills development, women empowerment, youth resource development, educational services, HIV/AIDS shelters, and free distribution of value-based literature. Swami Nishchalananda succeeded in spreading the message of Sri Ramakrishna's universality of God across the country. His life and teachings restored the waning pride of Hindus in South Africa and reinforced Sri Ramakrishna's message of coexistence amongst people of different faiths. People of different religions went to him for guidance and advice, and he successfully renewed their confidence in their own faiths. He saved many Hindus from being converted to Christianity by the spiritual direction and support that he showered on them. Swamiji had insight into the problems of South African Hindus and understood their ways of life. He succeeded in transcending class boundaries in South Africa and attracted people from all walks of life. Swamiji's legacy continues to live in a commendable manner and reflects the pioneering work implemented through his leadership, sacrifices, and love that he had for humankind. The compassion and grace of God worked through his kind soul and brought peace, goodwill, and solace to the thousands of Hindus that left their hearth and home to come to a foreign land. Swami Nishchalananda introduced Vedanta to South Africa in a unique way through his spiritual and cultural programs. Had it not been for this divine spark, Hindus in this country would not have had the privilege of appreciating Vedanta in the way that he had brought it to them. The immense sacrifices that he made for the benefit of humanity at large indicate his deep love and concern for them. Single-handedly, he guided the spiritual life of all those that were interested in pursuing a religious life. We admire this great soul for his unshakable dedication and ultimate selflessness.